Most people think addiction is about weakness. Others say it's a series of bad choices. But after a decade of studying human behavior, interviewing former addicts, psychologists, and neuroscientists, I've learned one thing. Addiction is neither. It's architecture, a fundamental rewiring of the mind. And once you understand how that rewiring works, you can finally see why people fall into addiction, why they hide it, why they lie about it, and why getting out feels harder than escaping gravity. Tonight, I'm going to walk you through all the hidden mechanisms, the emotional traps, the brain's transformation, and the long road back. This is the real story behind addiction, told through experience and scientific truth. Addiction rarely starts the moment someone tries a substance. It begins long before that in childhood patterns, emotional wounds, or a profound internal emptiness. So many recovering addicts have told me a version of the same thing. The drug wasn't the problem. The drug was the solution to a problem I never spoke about. People who fall into addiction often share deep psychological traits, a feeling of not being enough, chronic stress, suppressed trauma, loneliness, constant self-criticism, or an identity built on survival instead of self-worth. Before the drug ever enters their life, something is already missing. And then one day, they find something that fills that void, even if just for a moment. Most videos on this topic will tell you, drugs release dopamine. And that's true, but it's an extreme oversimplification. Here's what really happens. First, your brain has a natural reward system. It gives you a gentle drip of dopamine for normal things. Connecting with friends, finishing a project, eating a good meal. Second, drugs hijack that system. They don't just release dopamine. They create a tidal wave of it, far stronger than anything natural. Imagine turning a gentle radio volume knob into a stadium concert speaker overnight. Third, your brain interprets this unnatural dopamine flood as a signal of ultimate importance, something essential for survival. This is why addicts will say, "It felt like the drug knew me better than people." Because biologically, it becomes more important than food, family, or even safety. Not emotionally, but chemically. Every addict I've spoken with eventually tells me about the moment of shame, the moment they realized they had to hide. Addiction triggers a series of psychological changes. First comes denial. The person convinces themselves, "I can quit anytime," or "I'm just stressed." Next comes an identity split. One part of them desperately wants recovery, but the other part is consumed by the need for the next high. They become two people living in one body. Then comes the fear of judgment. Loved ones often respond with blame. "Why are you doing this? Just stop. Don't you care about us?" So the addict starts hiding, not because they're a bad person, but because they're terrified of losing the people they still love. Finally, as dependency sets in, withdrawal feels like dying. At that point, hiding becomes a raw survival strategy. Over time, addiction creates psychological distortions, ways of thinking that feel logical from the inside, but are actually traps. The first is time distortion. An addict lives from one hit to the next. The future ceases to exist. The only reality that matters is finding relief from the craving. The second is emotional numbness. The brain's natural reward system shuts down. The person stops feeling joy, sadness, or excitement from everyday life. Only the drug can bring any kind of emotional change. Then come the rationalization loops. They justify every action. "Today is my last time. I did well this week, so I deserve it. Just one more won't hurt." And finally, there's dissociation. The addict often feels like they're watching themselves from outside their own body, thinking, "This isn't me. But I can't stop." I once listened to a young man describe his first experience with addiction. He said, "I didn't fall in love with the drug. I fell in love with the silence it gave me." He had grown up in a household filled with constant conflict, yelling, and strict expectations. The drug gave him something he'd never felt before: peace. Another woman told me, "I used drugs not to feel high. I used them to not feel." Her addiction wasn't about pleasure. It was about turning down the volume on her own internal pain. A third man described the darkest phase. "You stop chasing the high. You start chasing not feeling sick." The drug stops being fun, it becomes medicine for a disease it created. And that is the cruelest trick of addiction. It manufactures the pain that only it can temporarily take away. Every addict eventually hits a moment where they see themselves clearly, sometimes for the first time in years. It could be losing a job, a partner leaving, or seeing fear in their child's eyes. They suddenly confront a terrifying truth. The drug didn't destroy my life. I helped it, but this moment, as painful as it is also incredibly powerful. It creates the first crack in the wall of denial, and every recovery begins with that crack. Most people assume recovery is all about willpower. It's not. Recovery is like performing brain surgery without knives. Here's what has to happen. First, the brain's dopamine baseline must rebuild. It has to relearn how to enjoy conversations, hobbies, food, and life itself. This process can take anywhere from 6 to 18 months. Second, emotional regulation has to return. In early recovery, emotions come back like a tidal wave. People suddenly feel everything they've been numbing for years. Third, identity reconstruction must take place. An addict has to rebuild who they are without the substance. This is why relapse often happens. Not because they want the drug, but because they no longer know who they are without it. And fourth, they have to form new reward pathways. The brain needs to build new circuits through healthy habits, meaningful relationships, and real achievements that eventually replace the addictive ones. And let's be clear, relapse is not a failure. It's a part of the neurological healing process. Here's why it happens. The brain remembers the shortcut to relief. That addictive memory never fully disappears. Stress can reignite those old circuits, flooding the brain with the same chemicals that made the drug so appealing in the first place. Emotional triggers, people, places, smells, even a song can activate cravings as if no time has passed. And this can create a shame cycle. A person relapses, feels intense shame, hides it, and then uses again to escape that shame. It becomes a vicious loop. But breaking that loop is possible, and millions of people do it every year. Every long-term successful recovery I've studied shares the same core elements. First is radical honesty with oneself. No more excuses, no more hiding. Real accountability begins. Second is community. Humans are social creatures, and we heal socially. Isolation is addiction's oxygen. Connection is its antidote. Third is purpose. Addiction often fills a void of meaning. A new purpose must be found to replace it. Fourth is structure. Recovery thrives on routines. Consistent sleep, exercise, therapy, and clear goals in a stable environment. And fifth, emotional healing. The underlying trauma must be processed, not ignored. You can't recover the brain without healing the heart. Ultimately, addiction isn't about drugs. It's about the human condition, our deep longing to feel safe, understood, and free from inner chaos. People don't become addicts because they want to escape life. They become addicts because, in many ways, life first escaped them. Recovery is always possible, but it requires more than just stopping a substance. It requires rebuilding the self that the addiction replaced. If there's one truth I've learned in all my work, it's this: addiction thrives in silence, but recovery thrives in connection. And the moment a person stops hiding is the moment their healing can finally begin. Thank you for watching.